The body of the major helicopter will already be the hint of what is happening now. One of the routes of special transport is going to be portrayed here in this video. I think some of the stuff in here is just placeholder still. We still have to wrap up work on the follow vehicles, or many of the cargoes are still half finished. But the work on the routes and the testing of the passages that we can or cannot make with particular cargoes is in very much advanced state. So now most of the work is up to the vehicle team to wrap up what they started, and on the QA team to test the hell out of this.
Somebody wrote, I don't even own any of these games, but my interest is peaked. Looks relaxing.
It is.
It is. We are definitely a relaxing game. We won a Steam award. Sit back and relax. That's what really is to hear. That's what. That's the DNA of our games.
You catch the spirit, but if you read some reviews on the Steam, I think good 20% of them speaks about this being a relaxing game against all expecting. And there are different aspects of the relax in the game. Some people use their preferred albums of old music, trackless music, but I think even more use audiobooks. So take your pick and try it. We have also demo version on Steam, so
yeah, just give it a try.
Yeah. When I pitch the game to somebody who doesn't know it, and I often have to do it when talking to industry people from manufacturers, transportation companies, it depends on how long a story I can tell.
Yeah.
But basically, when we started to make these games, we thought we are making games only for truck geeks, only for people crazy about trucks. It's turned out that over the years we have amassed a group of players who are not really that much into trucks necessarily, but who are into exploring new worlds, exploring them in really this relaxed. We hear often a term is used, Zen gaming kind of capacity. Yeah. This is a game where, unlike any racing game, you can just sit back, either use a steering wheel or a controller or even a keyboard or mouse to steer the vehicle, and just kind of
flow through the world.
Flow would be the word I was looking for. Just be relaxed, really. Talk to a friend on a radio, on a CD if people play by Discord. Listen to your favorite music. Tune into our internet radio.
Truckers.fm.
Truckers.fm maybe.
Yep.
Our friends there. And there are several kind of pillars to the gameplay. Some people play it because of the economy aspect, and they want to get rich and live through the dream of rags to riches story, that you start low as the hired driver and then ultimately build your own empire. Some people are explorers. They just want to see new places. They don't care that much about building a company. Some people play it because they can tune the trucks. They can get chrome parts instead of the standard ones. They can get paint jobs. They can get lights and fenders and whatever. So we have different things for different people, and not everybody's playing the game the same, but they can find their own game within our world, within their own kind of sandbox tuned to their own likings. So we have across both games we now have sold over 6 million copies. So that's a huge number of people that we have influenced, that we have caught interest of, that we have changed lives. We have people who start with just no interest in trucks and end up pouring hundreds and hundreds of hours into the game and still being happy with that time investment. So I think we somehow magically discovered this genre where exploration and kind of growth, your own kind of personal growth through this a little bit of RPG element with building the company and tuning the trucks is involved. Just works for people across many interests, many ages, many professional histories. It's not just drivers or past drivers or future drivers. It's both boys and girls. It's people young and old. It somehow works for a lot of people to just sit back and relax again.
Also, I forgot to mention that some people also aren't real drivers in real life, thanks to the game.
Yeah, and we have heard a lot of people writing us, you guys provided an inspiration for me to change my career. I decided to give it a try and obtained a commercial driving license, and now I'm a truck driver. So we do sometimes profoundly alter the lives of people by providing such an inspiration, hopefully for the better. The way we portray being a truck driver, of course, is a little bit rosy. It's a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think that this is a hard job. It's a tough challenge. You spend a lot of time outside of your home, away from your family. So it's not for everybody. It's something that the game makes look quite easier than it is. Also in our game, you can make money quite much easier than it is in the real world. But as a sort of escapism element of it, it works very well for people just to enjoy having a good time with their computer. And we really like having so many fans out there playing the game, watching our stream. Which brings me to the question, will you be doing more live streams in the future? We have explained that this is the plan, not in immediate future, but
we should build a studio in the office.
Well, we now plan to outfit our own streaming and YouTubing studio within in SCS office. Once we expand the office premises by another half of the floor of the building. So starting this autumn, we will be streaming on our own. For now, we are very kindly hosted by the guys from Gamekeepers CZ, a duo of local streamers who promote our games very frequently on their own streams and YouTubes. Thanks, guys.
Yes, it's great.
But in a few months we'll be competing with you. Sorry, we'll be doing our own stuff. So we will try to make it a more regular show, also a little bit shorter show than today, because we are already around for over 2 hours and still going. So we hope to turn it into some regular show where different people from different specialties in the company would come and talk about their stuff, show what they're working on, show how the tools work. This all is in the cards for the future, for doing more streams. For now, these two streams, the previous one focused on ETS2 and today's stream focused on ATS, are a bit of an experiment to see how we can cope with it, how we can survive the load, what it means to be streamers, and what it does with our kind of promotion across the community, how it's accepted by you guys, whether it's raising any visibility for the game in many media or something. So we will analyze this data from the streams and see if it's really something that's a big benefit, or whether it's something that we would do for the community, knowing that the community appreciates it anyway. So hopefully starting I think late September, October timeframe, we will be coming back to streaming frequently, or at least with some frequency, as opposed to an early experiment, and we will talk to you again from then on.
By the way, I've had pretty often question about Australia Truck Simulator, South America Truck Simulator.
Moon Truck Simulator.
This one
we have,
too.
over the years we have had so many
SpaceX.
requests for this, and actually we have heard repeatedly, business businesses approaching us about building truck sim games for more regions than just the ones that we are committed to. The thing is, you hear us talking about growing the company, growing the team, teaching newbies the know-how that they need to have to build vehicles, roads,
All the
landmarks,
content, yeah.
buildings. We can never quite grow fast enough to cover the whole planet quickly. We are struggling just as it is, as you know. American truck as well as Euro truck would be even better off if we were growing them faster. We were growing the works faster. So committing to a new region would mean putting the existing projects into danger. So if we somehow magically grow even faster than we dare in our wildest dreams, then yes, maybe we can open up a new region. For now, any growth that we manage to do, any new people that we hire, we immediately assign them to either Euro Truck or American Truck on a balanced basis, so that we can speed up the things that we are firmly committed to, which is American Truck Simulator and Euro Truck Simulator 2. Lane departure warning, blind spot warning. Well, there's a question about adding more simulated or emulated features of modern vehicles, like lane departure warning, blind spot warning. I think the work on making the advanced vehicle features even more precisely emulated in the game is never going to end. We are always going to be improving. At the same time, we like that currently the game is a challenge to drive. Once we do features that will keep you in check all the time, that maybe the truck will just follow the previous truck on its own, like modern vehicles do with the adaptive cruise control. Some of the magic will be gone if the truck is too much autonomous compared to requiring some of your attention, or all of your attention for keeping the eyes on the road. So some of these features will be eventually coming to the game, but we would like to keep it at the core, a driving experience, not just being a little part of a vehicle driving itself on its own. Now we see that it's a challenge to navigate a tight bend. The truck driver needs to think hard about keeping the load from clipping the inner objects in the inner sector of the bend, the curve.
So there's another question about other languages in the world of trucks. We plan something like that in upcoming version of the website.
Well, for some years actually it's been going on. When we launched when we launched World of Trucks website, we started, I think, programming it in PHP. PHP on top of some back-end core functionality in C++. Now there is thinking that maybe for our mental health, switching from PHP to Ruby would make sense. Ruby is a more maybe modern language in the family of web sportive languages. The work is ongoing, going through some stages. With this, we would also offer more functionality on the front end of it, including also having translations for some of the elements of the game that are only accessible there.
The site should also finally be mobile friendly, so
that would be nice.
Yeah.
So it's not just working on the games, that on what we would call client side of it, which is like the binary of the game and the data. World of Trucks is actually quite a complex system in the background, in the back end of it. World of Trucks is actually running in the cloud.
On Amazon, yeah.
On Amazon, we pay quite a nice amount, quite a few $1,000s every month for hosting World of Trucks servers and the bandwidth and the capacity. So World of Trucks is growing. It's a tough project for the group of programmers working and designers working on it, and we are still at the very beginning of the journey to make World of Trucks the umbrella project sitting above the individual games, providing the end game or the meta game to both games with deeper gameplay, companies that you can become a part of with other players, the social element to it, with proper multiplayer across sessions, across united or unified persistent player profile. So all this work is being done and poured into the project in parallel to what you see on the surface, to map DLCs or tuning or new vehicles, new loads, events. All this is happening next to World of Trucks development, because World of Trucks is for us a strategic direction. We know that we cannot have a single player game forever. We know that we have to make it deeper and richer and connected, and doing this in a robust, scalable way, being able to support perhaps hundreds of thousands of players at the same time in the shared economy. It's all really crazy challenge for the programmers, but we are chipping away at it. We are patiently and carefully working towards this huge vision.
That connects one more question pretty often. Why didn't we unite both games? Why did we do two separate games?
Well, in theory, and that was also considered some years ago, you could consider one or the other game being a mod, just like kind of a DLC, but then we would lose the identity of it. We would lose the ability to promote it as something that's focused for the particular audience or particular fan base of one or the other world, one or the other culture. So we are openly talking about the games sharing the same gameplay, sharing the same principles, just having them customized for different regulation limitations, stuff like that. The content is unique. The content is really 99% built separately for each game. So we're not cheating in that direction. We are building unique content for two different games. But each game, keeping them separate, can have some freedom of its release cycle, of adding content to it without affecting the testing schedule of the other game or the release schedule of the other game. So we have this, having them separate means that the teams don't have to, and the problems that they are facing don't have to be overly complex in managing the same as one project. We can manage them as two separate projects, or actually as a bunch of projects, each under their own identity. So for us, it's making things more manageable to have separate American truck and a separate Euro truck. But ultimately, there will be kind of logical connection or a logical bridge between the two by the means of World of Trucks, where we are basically starting from scratch when it comes to company gameplay management stuff. The rules will be different and more hardcore. The money will not be as easy to come by as it is in the current single-player games, where quick progress to the economy is important for keeping people gratified as they jump into the game and get to know it. So World of Trucks is going to connect to the two games by means of having companies probably span across both continents, having the same identity across both worlds, jumping from one to the other. So this vision is there to kind of connect them, but not as at the product level, but through the World of Trucks umbrella above them. Will you bring the game to console or mobile?
And read your note below. Sorry for
sorry.
that.
I know it's a tough question. We from business point of view, it's a blunder not to be on other platforms. If we were there, if we somehow one day get there, we will be more profitable. We get this information repeatedly. We are reminded of it with the success of the farming sim guys, with other games that made successful transition to consoles. For us, this is something that we are definitely keeping in our minds. But it's again a question of commitment to quality or commitment to supporting our players and our fans properly. There's a shortcut that we could use to get to consoles, which is hiring a separate studio, hiring a separate company, giving them our code base and our content, and asking them to do their magic and come back a year later with the port, and perhaps they would succeed and somehow make the transition. But then we would risk, we would maybe even get some early revenue out of this, some early profit out of this, but we would risk alienating the fan base and the customer base on these platforms by not giving them a 100 exact and synchronized version of the game as the one we would be meanwhile pushing forward with and improving. It would basically be desyncing the core team from this separate third-party developer helping out with a port. If we were to continue what they started and somehow catch up, it would be very difficult to continue somebody else's changes to your own source code without actually having your own team very deeply involved anyway. So for us, the more logical approach to ultimately conquering any other platforms is to try to do it internally, to grow the team, grow the experience, grow the bandwidth of the programmer team enough so that they can do it in parallel to pushing forward to the PC or Linux and Mac version that we have now, so that when the work is done on a port, it's not a port, it's a native version on a second platform or a third platform. It's something that we can continue updating, expanding at the same pace, at the same time, in sync with the PC platform, without having people wait for half a year or a year for the same DLC that already was available on a PC. We want to make sure that everybody's treated as a first-class customer. So any platforms that we eventually want to get to should have like full 100% completeness, feature complete, comparable to the PC version. That would be probably and hopefully achievable for the big consoles. The current generation consoles are essentially PC in disguise with a powerful CPU and GPU. So that's doable. When it comes to mobiles, we'll see that the control scheme would be different. Maybe the detail would have to be lowered somehow. So that's more of a challenge. However, there is discussion across the games industry that the world is shifting towards streamed games, especially on developed markets where the bandwidth for streaming data to a digital platform like a mobile or tablet is already rich and cheap. So who knows, maybe a few years down the road our games will be simply rendered and operated somewhere on a server farm and streamed down to your mobile or your console or your PC, not played by your local CPU and GPU, but just using your screen as a client to render stuff that's being rendered 100 or more kilometers away from you. So that may be a trick for the mobile and tablet version, keeping 100% visual identity with the PC port. For consoles, the more typical approach would be to really have it playing the game on its own hardware. And this is actually that we already have some dev kits in the company to look into it, to experiment with, but I cannot yet commit to any particular time frame for a release or even confirm it. We are definitely looking into it. We hear a lot of people requesting, can you guys move over to PS4 or Xbox? I just decided that my PC is not powerful enough and ditched it, but I'm not planning to buy a new PC for now. Please port it over to PS4.
And when is the game coming to Nintendo Switch?
Yeah, this is something that we want to look into, but again, we prefer to do things right rather than fast. So to make it right, to do it right, may take us quite some time.
Also, maybe we should warn people because we had some complaints from some of you guys that bought something like Euro Truck Driver or Euro Driver on Google Play, I believe.
Oh yeah, there are so
And
many
that's
fake games.
it looks like nothing we present in videos. Those are not our games. I think we.
And there is a lot of
Fake
fake
Well, I mean,
games.
It's weird, like to say fake games.
Yeah, well, we have started some legal steps to make sure our brands and our names are properly legally protected. This is in process, and it will give us and our legal team better tools to fight back against copycats, or not just copycats, but against people really abusing images from our game or making lookalike logos of our game across various platforms. So we are going to push harder on protecting our IP. At the same time, usually our focus at the core as developers was, let's make our game better and let's make it stand out and make sure that it's recognized on its own without bothering too much for chasing various teams scattered across the globe, just trying to make not even clones but even really fake games, pretending to be driving trucks in a world comparable to ours. But this is something that we are keeping an eye on, and we will be harsher on that in the future.
So basically, just if you buy Euro Truck Driver on Steam, it's us.
Yeah, I just read
2007 viewers.
Okay, so
We reached 2000.
you guys just
Wow.
don't want to let us go.
The next question is: what is the most pleasant thing in your pleasant thing in your work?
You do answer that.
Yeah, we can answer all that and.
Okay.
I need to drink something.
Okay, I would say as a game world creator would say it's exploring of and doing the research.
Well,
And because we always do content based on some research, based on some real reference, but when you dive into it and explore that America is much more beautiful than you thought before, it's amazing. And then you have a chance to express yourself and to design it, to design your vision or your view or something like. Everybody sees the country in a different from the different angle of view, you know. And to me, I'm mostly responsible for junctions, and I'm always impressed how Americans can solve the difficult situation with traffic flows and everything. It's amazing. And the second thing, today I saw some live streams from our unofficial multiplayer from the Big Sur event, and I was touched. You know, I really had to hold tears because it was so amazing. Like 100 or even more truckers in the row waiting to pick up the cargo from the Big Sur event. That was really amazing. I was as a creator of that content, of that event, of the scenery, I was touched. It was amazing. Thank you guys for being so supportive, and thank you for playing our games. That's what make us really happy.